Hi, I'm Steve Younis. Welcome to the Speeding Bulletin, your Superman news video recapping the events of the week May 29th to June 4th, 2015. Our top news stories this week included DC Comics launches their new DCU campaign, Colleen Atwood talks about designing the Supergirl costume, and Greg Silverman talks about the differences between DC and Marvel's movies. Let's check out these stories and more in this week's Speeding Bulletin. In movie news, The Hollywood Reporter published an interview with Warner Brothers film chief Greg Silverman, in which he talks about the slate of DC Comics-based movies and how Warner Brothers will differentiate itself from Marvel's superhero films. He said, "We have a great strategy for the DC films, which is to take these beloved characters and put them in the hands of master filmmakers and make sure they all coordinate with each other. You'll see the difference when you see Batman v Superman, Suicide Squad, Justice League and all the things that we are working on." Warner Brothers Home Entertainment sent out an official press release this week for the August 25th release of LEGO DC Comics Superheroes Justice League Attack of Legion of Doom. Special features on the Blu-ray DVD release include a featurette titled Click Zam Boom, creating the sound design. This fun documentary goes behind the scenes with the talented sound design and Foley team to explore how LEGO sounds are created live on stage and then edited into the final movie. Pre-order your copy from our online store now. Storyboard artist Steve Younis was once involved in the defunct Justice League Mortal movie that was to be directed by George Miller. Younis released a series of storyboard pages he drew depicting a battle scene from the movie between Superman and Wonder Woman. He revealed on his Facebook page that the storyboards depict a scene that would have taken place near the end of the film, in which Superman fights Wonder Woman because the film's villain Maxwell Lord took control of Superman's mind, turning him against all of his allies. EW.com also has images from the film which were posted on the Facebook page of the upcoming documentary being made about the failed Justice League film. Canadian Superman fans might be interested to know that Superman the movie will be amongst the whole slate of superhero films scheduled to screen as part of an outdoor film experience during the Atlantic Film Festival in Halifax next month. The Summer of Superheroes event will see 11 free screenings across the city starting in late June and running until the end of August. Superman the movie will be screened on July 24th. In TV news, costume designer Colleen Atwood spoke with Variety about bringing to life the comic book costumes of The Flash, Green Arrow and Supergirl for their live-action TV counterparts. In regards to Supergirl, she said, "I feel like there's a real love for Americana with Supergirl, and I wanted to really embrace that heart of woman. There's enough skin out there in the world, it's not for everybody, and Melissa was just the right person to pull it off." In comic book news, it's no secret that exciting things are happening in the DC Universe this month. The DC Comics line will consist of 24 brand new series beginning with issue number 1, in addition to 25 ongoing and fan favourite series that will continue. To prepare fans for the new series and a chance to enjoy the large catalogue of books, DC Comics is having its biggest digital sale ever. The sale consists of over 1,200 digital books rolling out through June at only 99 cents each. Head to Comixology.com to buy yours. DC Comics launched their DCU campaign with a video sizzle reel showing off some of their new titles under their new branding. Here's a short bit of the lengthy video. Entertainment Weekly published an interview with writer Heath Corson in which he talks about the upcoming new Bizarro title. He said Bizarro tells us that his planet loved him and were so excited by him that they tied him into a rocket and wanted to share him with the universe. He's just a menace. So that's when Jimmy Olsen gets the idea that he can take Bizarro on a road trip. Comic books we reviewed this week included Convergence number 8, which was reviewed by Jeremiah Bohr, who gave it a 1 out of 5, saying Convergence could have been one of the best events in this company's history, instead it's the worst. Michael Bailey reviewed Convergence Action Comics number 2, saying, "While this issue was one long fight scene, I think that Gray managed to put enough character into the story to make that fight scene mean something," and he rated this a 4 out of 5. Convergence Booster Gold number 2 was also reviewed by Jeremiah, who said, Dan Jurgens knows what fans like and he gives it to them, and he rated this a 4 out of 5. Michael J. Petty reviewed Convergence Detective Comics number 2, giving it a 4 out of 5, saying this is probably one of the best Convergence tie-ins. And T.A. Hewitt reviewed Injustice Year 4, Chapter 4, saying Buccellato has decided to ignore much, if not all, of the groundwork laid by Tom Taylor, and he rated this chapter a 1 out of 5. Superman comics available this week from June 3rd include Injustice Gods Among Us Year 4 Chapter 5 digital comic has been available since June 2nd. Action Comics number 41, which is available in a variant Joker cover. Bizarro number 1, which is also available in a variant cover. Justice League number 41, which is also available in a variant Joker cover and a blank variant cover. And World's Finest Volume 5 Homeward Bound trade paperback. Gund is ready to save the world with help from some of the DC Universe's most powerful superheroes. Grab this Gund Superman Griffin sound toy for $12.19. Or how about a Gund Baby Avetta Supergirl Activity baby blanket for $16.31. These and other great Gund products are available from your one-stop Superman shop, the Superman Homepage online store at supermanhomepage.com/shop. In other news, last week it was Texas, this week Six Flags St. Louis, the coastal capital of Missouri, in partnership with Warner Bros. Consumer Products and DC Entertainment, announced the debut of its new 4D ride, Justice League Battle for Metropolis. Guests step into a comic book-inspired adventure when they team up with Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, Green Lantern and The Flash after accepting the challenge to outwit and foil Lex Luthor and the Joker's plans to destroy the city of Metropolis. Visit sixflags.com/St. Louis for more information, including park operating hours. The Superman homepage Super Trivia quiz has been updated for another month, and this time around the 3 questions we're asking you are: what is the full name of the government department that Hank Henshaw works for in the upcoming Supergirl TV series? What name does Kara Zor-El come up with for her secret identity in the 1984 Supergirl movie? And in Superman the Animated Series, what planet does Supergirl come from? If you think you know the answers to all 3 questions, come by the site now and submit your entry. A new book by Mark Edlitz titled How to Be a Superhero is available this month, examining superheroes and actors who play them. The book contains interviews with actors who have played DC Comics superheroes, including Superman actors Tim Daly and Dean Cain, as well as actors who have played Lex Luthor, Jimmy Olsen, Lois Lane and many more. How to Be a Superhero will be released on June 15th. Order it now through our online store. For the 3rd consecutive year, the town of Hutchinson will symbolically change its name to Smallville from June 18th to June 21st. The renaming is in conjunction with the Smallville Festival, followed by the Smallville Comic Con that take place there at the same time. That's all the news there was for the week May 29th to June 4th. I'm Steve Younis from supermanhomepage.com.
Great Scott! Great Scott! Great Scott!
Hello everyone and welcome to another fabulous episode of Great Scott. I'm Scotty V. Thanks for watching. John Shea. John Shea played Lex Luthor back in the 90s on the Lois and Clark New Adventures of Superman television show. A lot of people had a problem with him because he had hair and he kind of had sex appeal. He had charm. He was kind of good looking. He was going to be a romantic interest for Lois Lane. I loved him personally. I thought he was the greatest Lex Luthor I've seen on screen. Before John Shea, we had the 50s interpretation of Luthor, or the Superman, the movie interpretation, the Gene Hackman kind of goofy, cheesy Luthor, and that has its place. It's nice and fun. We had Lex Luthor on the Superboy series, and that whole series was kind of a tad askew. We had Luthor on the radio program. We've had many interpretations of Luthor. Most of them on screen have been kind of campy, kind of cheesy, kind of silly. Michael Rosenbaum portrayed Lex Luthor for about 10 years on Smallville, and he was fantastic. We saw a different facet to Luthor. We saw a growing up Luthor. We saw a guy who was trying to do well and trying to be Clark's friend, but wanted to find out what everybody was doing, so he kept spying on them and checking them out and having cameras everywhere and keeping files on everybody, and eventually he spiraled into darkness, and that was fantastic. But my favorite Lex Luthor by far is the businessman Lex Luthor, the manipulative Lex Luthor that has people working for him and has them do all the dirty work, Lex Luthor. Not that he's afraid to get his hands dirty. He's been known to strangle a person or two. But for the most part, so that he can stay clean, he makes sure that everything gets done outside of him, so there's never any proof. Here in the final scene of Season 1 of Lois and Clark, Lex Luthor's world comes tumbling down as he's about to marry Lois Lane. Perry White and Jimmy Olsen and Inspector Henderson all jam into the room and tell him that there's finally proof. They accuse him of being a criminal. They know he's involved in stuff, and they take him down. But he gets away. He uses kung fu, and he smashes some people, and he throws over a cop. And he runs down to make sure his nemesis Superman is dead in a kryptonite cage that he built for him, but Superman has escaped, which just further pisses Lex off. He hears the police coming, he runs up to his penthouse, and he decides to jump out the window. After he does this, he dies, but then Gretchen Kelly, his doctor from the comic books, who appears in the series, brings him back later, but in a much more limited capacity. Deborah Joy Levine, who produced the show and was a huge creative force on it for the first season, said, "We never intended to have Lex Luthor be the big baddie for the whole series. We thought that would get a little stale, a little boring. So we wanted him to come back and we wanted him to be around, but we never intended to use him in the same capacity that we used him in the first season, where he was on almost every episode." John Shea, on the other hand, said that the show became too tasking for him on a personal level because he lived so far away. I think it was Montana. His family was there, he wasn't seeing his children, and he didn't want to make the trip to spend full days every day all year while they were filming anymore. But he was glad to come back and do a few episodes in every season from that time going forward. John Shea was a cool Lex, a charming Lex, a Lex who could get Lois to feel like she loved him, a Lex who could get Lois to feel like she wanted to marry him. He was a foil for Clark Kent, whom this show was about, more so than Superman, because the action and the adventure was secondary, whereas the romance and the personal plot lines of the characters was very paramount, which is why I always loved this show. But it was a little cheesy, and especially after Lex Luthor departed, the villains got goofy. We had villains like Bob, Master of the Universe, sitting playing with action figures, which I'm sure was an homage to Rick Moranis in Spaceballs, but just wasn't as funny, who was able to somehow be a foil to Superman later. And this makes Superman lesser when his enemies are goofy, and they're still able to provide some sort of a risk to Superman. It makes Superman not look as cool. But Lex Luthor, super smart. Back in the old days, he was this kind of rotund scientist who wore a lab coat and created things. And Lex could still do that. Lex, on this show, we didn't see that much of, but he had ideas. He did create the kryptonite cage, and he created some other things. Later on, he had a gun and some things that he used against Superman. So he had a scientific mind, but he wasn't per se a scientist. He was more a businessman. He was a manipulative man. He was a guy who could get things done, and he had confidence and arrogance, and he was ballsy, and he was awesome. And it was all because of John Shea and because of the portrayal they decided to go with, which came from the John Byrne Superman reboot Man of Steel in the 80s, which was my favorite interpretation of the Lex Luthor character. I love that interpretation. I hope we see that in the Batman v Superman movie. Of course, with that, we're going with a younger Lex, a Lex that seems more a contemporary of Superman, maybe the same age or around the same age, maybe even younger. I think the actor is younger who's playing him in the Batman v Superman movie. But I've always loved Lex, and I always love when he's portrayed as a man who is really eloquent in speech, can say a lot, is smart, knows a lot, can get people to do things for him. I also like him as a bit of a ladies' man. I also like him with some martial arts skills and some self-defense skills for himself. Although it's not necessary for Lex to be a big, muscle, beefy guy because he's not the brawler. He's not the guy who gets into hand-to-hand situations with Superman. He's the guy who hurts him by doing things to him behind the scenes that Superman always knows Lex did, but that can never be proven. And I loved John Shea. This year, John Shea will be appearing at the Superman celebration on Friday the 12th and Saturday the 13th in Autograph Lane or Autograph Alley or whatever it's called. There won't be a ticket for that. Now, with the other celebrities that often come, you have to stand in line earlier and get tickets, and they only give so many out in order to get in line and get autographs from the celebrities. A lot of times the celebrities' autographs are free. By what I'm hearing and what we're reporting on the Superman homepage, there may be a fee to get an autograph from John Shea, which, as I stated with Dean Cain last year, is unfortunate. But if there was anybody that would get me to go to the Superman celebration if I was on the fence, it would be John Shea or Dean Cain. Something along those lines. Last year I wanted to go, couldn't. This year I wanted to go, couldn't. If something was going to change my mind, it would be the fact that awesome John Shea is going to be there. So the fact that you get to meet him, if you're there, have a good time, get his autograph if you like. Meet a guy who portrayed Lex Luthor in an awesome way, and I feel doesn't really get his due for playing Lex so coolly. Thanks everybody for watching, and remember, I must confess it brings me a certain satisfaction that everyone in the city has to look up in order to see me.